Hello, you guys. How are you guys doing? My name is Karina, and I have joined the Erased Child Trafficking team to talk to you guys more about human trafficking, both getting the conversation started, answering any questions you have. I can't promise I have the answers, but I can definitely look them up for you. So I'm going to come on here on Tuesday nights and chat with you guys, talk to you a little bit about the industry, about what's going on, what's in the news, or just share with you what's come up. Sound good? So tonight I want to talk to you guys about why join the fight. And I'll tell you, even from my standpoint, when I was like younger and I was like, I feel like I need a cause. I need something to believe in. I need something to fight for. And as a younger person, you're kind of like, well, there's so many causes. There's so many important things out there. There's animal rights. There's cancer awareness. There's just everything. And human trafficking caught my attention and it stuck with me. I've done a lot of things and I still to this day get involved in a lot of causes, but human trafficking has stuck with me constantly. And I'm gonna tell you three huge reasons why. The number one reason is, I hate to say it this way, but it's easy. Fighting human trafficking, raising awareness of human trafficking it can be very simple. Unlike some causes, some things you really have to work hard, you have to draw attention to, you have to come up with something massive to get people's attention. Human trafficking is in our backyards. It is advertised everywhere, and it's a natural conversation to come up. It can come up from something simple, like your friend using the term pimp as if it's cool. Like, dude, that guy is such a pimp. And you can just be like, dude, by the way, pimps recruit girls ages 11 to 14. Like, that's in the United States, that's when sex trafficking workers, that's when prostitutes start, between the ages of 11 and 14. It's just natural. It's not like you're trying to sit down with your friends and be like, can I talk to you about, it just happens. You're listening to music and you hear lyrics and you're like, hey, do you ever think about how that song is really kind of crazy demeaning to women? Like, I can't believe my little 13-year-old sister's listening to that. And you hear her say those words and you're like, let's sit down and talk to her. Maybe you're babysitting and you realize that you're like the little 8-year-old you're babysitting is doing a musically to a song that's just not appropriate, and it's actually encouraging her to value herself for her physical appearance, because when she gets approached later on, she's thinking about that, not the conversation you've had with her. So the fight of human trafficking can be very natural and very simple. Now, I'm not saying that like the actual interactions of fighting human trafficking, those are more complicated, but for us to be involved in human trafficking, awareness, I apologize, let's not get involved in human trafficking, but the awareness of it can be very simple and it can be very natural. So that is number one. That is why I've not even when I try, I don't even think about getting in the fight against human trafficking. Many times it's just a conversation that naturally happens. That's number one. Number two is because human trafficking is 100% preventable. There's many causes out there, and believe me, I'm not asking you to give up any of your causes. One of the things I love about human trafficking is that it's one of the things you can fight for. Learn a lot about it, and then talk about it as it comes up, and you don't have to give up everything else. But there are other causes that aren't 100% preventable. The fight against cancer, I think is wonderful. We need to find a cure for cancer, but it's not preventable. If we made the whole world aware of cancer and made everybody hate cancer, guess what? Cancer's still going to be here. If we got the whole world aware of schizophrenia, it's still going to happen. Anything like those things, those still happen. Human trafficking is awareness based. If we can make people aware of it, it's going to squash what's going on. If we can make people recognize the dangers of it, it's going to decrease. Does that make sense? So that's my number two reason. I'm passionate about it because it is 100% preventable. And the third reason, and I try not to get too statistical because I know there's certain things that we hear over and over and over again. This is why I'm kind of hesitant of the word human trafficking, because we get kind of numb to it. But a third fact we have to keep in mind is that there are more slaves today than there have ever been in history. Let me say that again. There are more slaves today than there have ever been in history. Like, I don't care if you're reading the Bible. I don't care if you're reading about Martin Luther King Jr. It doesn't matter what era you're talking about. Today, right now, in our society, there are more slaves. And I think that word, we don't give it enough credit. Because when we say human trafficking victims, we go, well, that's got to be somebody who's being held against their will, right? That's a human trafficking victim had to be somebody who's kidnapped, right? They've got to be drugged. They have to be fighting. They have to be like tooth and nail scratching or drugged out of their mind. But let's think about slavery. How many people that were in slavery, when we think of our typical slavery, how many of them were fighting day and night? How many of them were scratching and clawing and screaming at their owners? Or how many of them were just going along because that's what they knew? Because that was their day to day. That's how there was a roof over their head and there was food in front of them, and they didn't know there was another option. They knew it was a huge uphill battle. They knew that nobody else was fighting for them. That's what our modern day slaves are. That's what our trafficking victims are. They might not be separated specifically by skin color, but there's still a difference. There's still a throwaway child versus a cared for child. There's a cared for child who, should they be diagnosed with a disease, we will spend millions fighting for them. And there's a human trafficking victim who we assume, well, she didn't want to be there, she'd fight. That's slavery. That is where you cannot fight your way out of. You don't know enough to know that you can fight your way out of it. So those are my three huge reasons why I think anybody and everybody can join the fight. It's not that you have to quit your day job. As a matter of fact, the fight against human trafficking will happen at your day job. It's your everyday interactions. It's your hanging out with your friends. It's going to coffee. It's leading VBS. Those are the moments where you get to do it. So I'm not telling you to stop what you're doing. It's actually do more of what you're doing, because that's where awareness is raised. I'm going to tell one more quick story in case you missed it on the news, because we need to celebrate this. There was an Uber driver in the news a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw it. If you saw it, you should blow it up, because here's the thing. This Uber driver, if you're not familiar with Uber, Uber is a service where it's like a taxi cab, but many people can sign up for it. It's an app on your phone. And so everyday driver, I think he'd been doing it for like 2 weeks, and he picks up 3 ladies, and girl gets in his front seat. He says she looks like she was 12. She was 16, and she was dressed a little bit less than appropriate for her age. And for many of us, we dismiss that. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of times my gut instinct is, ugh, well, maybe that's not my business. But she was sitting in the front next to him, and there was 2 ladies in the back that were having a conversation that seemed a little off, and he couldn't get quite out of his mind. One of the statements that was made to this young girl in the front seat was like, when you hug him, make sure you pat him down, make sure he doesn't have any weapons, and then make sure you get your donation. And he's like, not adding up. Plus, he dropped him off at a hotel. Now, here's the thing. Second week on the job, this was like an $8 Uber ride. But he said it just didn't add up. Something just wasn't right. Now, nobody said he needed to interact. He didn't need to stop them. He didn't need to play all Liam Neeson, I will find you and I will kill you. But he's like, I can't just let it go. So he dropped them off, and he got a safe distance away, and he called the cops. And he just said, here's the deal, here's the conversation, here's where they are, doesn't seem right. The cops went in, and the cops did what they do. Their job isn't easy, but our job can be. So they went in, and it was, in fact, a human trafficking situation where a 16-year-old child was being sold by 2 adult women to another man, and for the evening. And those 2 women are now being held on $500,000 bail. But what that Uber driver did was not hard. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't dangerous. He said, that's not right. I'm going to make a phone call. And where did he learn that from? He wasn't trained by the cops. Somebody else had made him aware. The conversation had started somewhere, and he said, you know what? This doesn't add up. And so that's where human trafficking, where the fight against human trafficking can become such a big piece. I wish every story was that positive. I have another friend. She was in Los Angeles, and actually I think she was in San Diego. She was in California, and she saw a photo shoot happening on the beach. And she said the girl was too young to be dressed the way she was, and she wasn't comfortable with what was going on. And I was like, well, what did you do? Did you call the cops? And she said, no, because everybody else was around, and nobody else did anything. I mean, I'm sure if, it was just one of those, it wasn't right, but somebody had to do something, right? But here's the problem, is a whole lot of people think somebody will do something, and then nobody does nothing. And it makes that individual 10 times worse. Because I don't know if you've ever been in the situation where it's better to be alone than alone in a group of people. So that girl that was being tracked, that was being put in this photo shoot, probably to be put online, it's one thing if she's hidden in a back room, in a cage where she knows she's fighting, and if somebody found her, she'd be rescued. But it's now in broad daylight. It is broad daylight. She's doing a photo shoot on the beach, and people are passing by. They're saying, you know what? We see what's happening to you. We don't care. We're not going to get involved. That's your business. You're not fighting tooth and nail, so it can't be slavery. It can't be human trafficking. You obviously kind of want to do it if you're there. And so here she was feeling that much more alone. I wish I had a happy ending to the story. I don't. I have a friend who constantly wonders what would have happened. But that's where our fight needs to take place. We need to raise awareness. We need the conversation to start. And then when those little things happen that just go, this doesn't feel right, something's wrong, we need to be ready to do that. And that is what the fight against human trafficking looks like to me. And that is why I'm crazy passionate about it. And that is why I'm super grateful you're on this page. And I really appreciate all you're doing. I think I want to encourage you guys to do, again, the simple, easy things. On this page each day, we're putting a different fact or picture or image up so that you can share it. It can be that simple to raise awareness. It's just, hey, you guys, did you know these facts? Are you aware of this? Raising awareness is such a big piece of it. So I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for being on here. I will be back here again next Tuesday around 7 p.m. Central Time. Bye, guys.